It is Friday, and every Friday I sit down and I plan the girls' goals for the week every week, and I thought I would film it. So if you're interested in that kind of thing, keep watching. If you are new to my channel, welcome. My name is Sarah and I am a mum of 5 children. 2 of which are adults, one of them even has a son, so a grandmama, and they have moved on and moved out of home. So I only have 3 younger children at home. Now I was one of those parents that have a huge gap between my first 2 and my second 3, so yeah, that's how that works. Which means I've gone through the whole schooling system. My older 2 were never homeschooled. My younger 3 started in the schooling system, and we decided to pull them out of school this year, so this is our first year of homeschooling. It's been a real learning curve, and if you want to know the challenges that I have overcome, I did do a video overcoming the challenges in the first 6 months of homeschooling, but the way I'm setting up homeschooling for this year is really focusing on transitioning out of school and into homeschool, not just for the girls, but for me, because I do not have a background in teaching. We do maths 5 days a week, and the lessons, however, are not 5 days a week. We only do lessons for some of our children 4 days a week, others might be 3 days a week. It really depends on kind of what is needed, but we do math drills every day. And we started off doing math drills in the beginning with Prodigy, which is a game that you can play where they solve math equations to play. And that was just to get them to like maths, because they really didn't like maths at all. And I think it was because the way maths is done in the classroom is quite confusing, quite frustrating, and they don't get that help that they really needed to understand a concept like they do at home. So I had to kind of take a real soft approach to maths because it was their worst subject, I guess, even though they have proven that is their best subject since they've been home. Starting with, it was just so much resistance. So that's kind of how we started maths in our house every day. And they would just do 30 minutes on Prodigy or 15 minutes, and then we would go in and do the lesson. However, this term, I wanted to get right away from all computers, so that the only time they go on technology, what it used to be like, is for fun or for projects. We now do maths drills using different games. So the first maths drill game, we use a deck of cards. So I just get, maybe one child will have all the hearts, and I take out all the kings, queens and stuff, and aces one, and the other child might have the clubs. And they will challenge each other. So we will do whatever times table we're focusing on. We might go, okay, every time you put something down, we are doing the 7s times table, or we might mix it up and do 7s and 9s. What we sometimes do is they write out the times table, so they're learning it. It's a like memory test, so they just kind of keep writing it out. They can look at the answers, I'm not worried about that, or they can work it out in their head, whatever's fastest. But when we do the challenge, it's all in your head. So the first one to come up with the answer wins the point. If they get it at the same time, nobody wins. And we kind of do that. Now Ayla is 2 years older than Annabelle, but Annabelle is clicking on really fast. So, and sometimes Ayla will just kind of take a big deep breath before answering to give Annabelle a little bit of a chance. With Ellie, she isn't ready to learn times table, so we've been doing addition and subtraction, trying to keep with what she's learning so that she gets to learn things faster. So sometimes I'll have the same card go down, and so she knows that 10 plus 10 is 20, so it's instant, or 5 plus 5 is 10, or 2 plus 2, so we'll do doubles. And I'll always take a big deep breath before I answer, because I try and want to get her to answer, but if she takes too long, I'll answer it. And then sometimes we'll do add 1, so we just say, okay, so every time a card's down, you just have to add 1, so she gets faster and faster, or we might do add 2. So it's kind of helping them become automatic in the answers of simple calculations, so it makes it easier for them to do their work later on. The other game we play is dice. So dice is like, I guess some people call it Yahtzee. We play the Yahtzee version of dice, where it's teaching the kids about grouping, and I get them to do their own points, except I do Ellie's because she just doesn't want to. So the way to play this game is you have 5 dice. And you can have a cup, but you don't need a cup. I just find a cup easier. So each person gets 3 rolls. And the person that gets to 100 first wins the game. And how that works is, for each roll, you choose a number. So for example, Annabelle might get a 6. They often go for the 6s. And the first roll, the second roll, she might get another 2 6s, so she puts that aside with her first 6. And then the third roll, she might get another 2 6s or another 1 6, and she puts it with her numbers. And then she adds that up and adds it each round to her score until we get to 100. This game is really great for grouping and learning to group numbers and skip count. The way we add the Yahtzee component is if you get 5 5s, you instantly get 100 points. So if you get a Yahtzee, that's 100 points. And you can use your 3 rounds to get the 5s. It teaches them a little bit about chance and risk taking. The girls absolutely love this game. The next game we play is Rummy Cup. So we do this every Friday at the moment. In the board game Rummy Cup, you get a whole lot of tiles that have numbers on them, and you set it up. Everyone gets like a board to put tiles on, and you put the tiles face down so you can't see what the tiles are. And each player chooses 14 tiles. They just randomly select the tiles from the stacks or the table or in a bag. And the tiles have 4 colors. There's a set of numbers, and they have blue, yellow, black, and red. And then you have wild tiles that can be anything, and they're like the faces. And the goal is to kind of like you're playing cards. They need to match colors to make certain sets. So if you're going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, you have to have a minimum of 3 in a set always. You can put them together, and as long as there's the same color, if they're like 1, 2, 3, 4. Or what you can do is do the same number but in different colors. You can't 3 in red, 3 in blue, 3 in yellow. So this game is helping children to be able to see patterns and construct patterns and numbers. And the last person who has no tiles left wins, and that's basically how you play Rummy Cup. Now, if you have any maths drill games that you guys play, let me know in the comments, because I am looking for more, because I want to shake things up every term, so we do different things each term. So the first thing I started the girls on, and I started my 2 older ones, not my youngest, Ellie, and I'll talk about her soon. The other 2, I started them on teaching textbooks. So teaching textbooks is a online maths lesson. It's basically parent free. So the kids go onto the computer and they can do their math lessons online. It talks to them, it tells them the lesson, it helps them, it has hints for the answers, and then it practices all the concepts. So you have a kid portal and a parent portal. With the kid portal, they log in, they have their lessons. You can set whether they do 1 or unlimited, or they can't do more than 1 a day. You can determine how many lessons they do a day. We just did 1 lesson was enough. There's 118 lessons plus 17 quizzes. So every so many lessons, they then do a quiz to see how that much they do. And most of the questions, they get 2 tries, which is really good. Ayla struggled with it the most, so she wasn't on it very long. It was too pitchery for her. She struggles with being on the computer, trying to do the work and then work it out, and she just needs something written. So the good thing about teaching textbooks was that you can print out the whole thing. So in the parent portal, you can go onto the lessons and you can actually print out the lessons until the quiz. I did that with Ayla for a while, and then it got to a point where we realized it wasn't working for her, because the way teaching textbooks works, it does 1 lesson. The lesson's very small. It's not a lot of time on the lesson. I'd say it's probably about 3 minutes. And then it would just have 22 questions, just practicing everything they've learnt to date. And for Ayla, that was just too confusing, which is why we moved her onto ACE, and I'll talk to you how we do ACE soon. Annabelle, on the other hand, is still doing teaching textbooks, and she's doing really, really well. Like, the rule in our house, you have to get 90%. If you don't get 90%, then we relook at why, and we go over that concept together. So we did start Annabelle off on the lessons, and she did it for a whole term, much longer than what Ayla did. And she kind of got sick of doing the computer, got sick of the voice. She didn't like listening to it. she would often skip the lesson and kind of wing it. So this term I've decided to print it all out, and she's doing printables. So what she does is, as I go through the lesson with her, I do the explaining, we talk about it. If she understands the concept, it's quick. If she doesn't, we go through it until she does. Then she goes and does the practice part of the lesson, which is 22 questions. What I do is I have the actual lesson on mute while she's handing in. And if she gets anything wrong, I give it back to her in her maths lesson, not the next day, to correct it. So we move on from the lesson every day. It's a little bit more hands-on, but I have to be hands-on anyway in the classroom with Alison, so I might as well do it. And what it's doing is it's getting her ready for that next step of doing independent bookwork. So the great thing about doing it this way is it tells me exactly what the percentage is of the course that she got right. Most of the time she's getting 100% right, or she's getting 95% right. Then I can print out her course at the end of the year. It's not too expensive either because it's a whole year course. Like if your children are in school, this is a great thing to use for them after school, because it's quick and easy. It doesn't take too much time, and they're practicing all the concepts they should know, and you'll pick up very quickly gaps that they may not know, and this will help fill those gaps, if that makes sense. So especially if you're in New Zealand curriculum, I strongly recommend something like this. So with Ali, we used the good and the beautiful. Because she was only in school for about a year and a half, she didn't learn a lot. So we didn't have to do a big transition, because a lot of it she learned how to count, which she kind of knew before she went to school. And she learned a few concepts, but not enough to say that she has gaps. The Good and the Beautiful's Math 1 is for grade 1. I didn't even do an assessment test. It wasn't about what she knew, it was about getting her in the habit of doing maths lesson, if that makes sense. So that was the whole concept behind using the Good and the Beautiful. Because it's a free curriculum, I did the first term just printing out worksheets and putting them into a book, and then we made the investment, and I'm glad I did, because I brought it with the box. And the lessons are very colourful, are very fun, very engaging. So the way the lessons work is actually you would spend the first part of the lesson explaining, talking with her, and it's just like a lesson around a topic, and then she would go work on her own, do independent learning. However, because Ali hasn't mastered reading yet, she's getting very good at reading, but she's like more advanced in her maths than she is her reading, so I would still have to kind of help her. So it's very teachy, hands-on, if that makes sense. Then we have the box with all the awesome additional things they use. It's kind of like the resource box. I don't think you really need it. I replaced all the coins because obviously the whole thing's American. Our coins are really easy. It's like 10 cents, 20 cents, 50 cents in the numbers. It also comes with these, like it's got the clock on the front, but it also comes with these little clocks. So the blue one, 1 hour and half hour, and the yellow ones are quarter and half hours. So they're learning to tell time, which I do like these clocks. The boats are for just boat games. There's actually 2 dice. I don't know where she's put the other dice, which is just a normal die, but this dice is left to right. And then we've just got all these cool little puzzle pieces, but you can pick these wooden puzzle pieces up anywhere. So with the Good and the Beautiful, I think it's a really good starting point, but for me, it's not enough. It's a little bit light in the practice side, and I guess they've timed it for the young children who just spend a little bit of time on maths. But because it's one of Ali's favourite math topic, I think what I'm going to do is print out some of Annabelle's first lesson. I'll see how she goes with that. Starting at the Good and the Beautiful, I think it's very, very good if your child is not interested in maths. It's very colourful. I think it has like geography in there. It has a lot of art in there. So it's like a mix of everything. I think is really cool. But for my daughters, the Good and the Beautiful maths is just not meaty enough in the word problems or the practicing of basic facts and things like that. So we'll probably move away from the Good and the Beautiful next year, I think. But if you're just starting out, I do think it's a good way to just begin. So ACE maths we use for Ayla. However, the way I do ACE is a little bit differently maybe than other people do it. We didn't start Ayla on where her level was. We did the tests that you can do online where they do a placement test, and because we're under Homeschooling New Zealand, we sent the test to them, and they're an organisation that sort of monitors us, keeps a track record of all the testing scores, will actually check the tests that we mark, and we'll have discussions on what we need to work on and where she needs to go. So they sort of set a plan for Ayla. And the reason we're going under an organisation to do that is because if she decides to go to university or needs credits for a job, we need some sort of evidence that she's done the work. And going under an organisation and do this, like, I think it's called NCEA, I'll put the right term. You have to achieve so many credits a year before the end of high school to pass and be able to go into university or to get certain jobs or go into certain positions or certain courses or whatever you want to do. So we want to keep that door open. Now, ACE, that's through the homeschooling. So ACE is not the only subject that you have to do to get those credits. There are other courses you can do. The reason we chose ACE is because the way it's structured is that it focuses on one topic at a time, and it's not sporadically testing you on every topic, like similar to teaching textbooks. So she was able just to focus on her topics and master them and move on. It's just the way her brain works, and it works better for her. So when we did the placement test, Ayla had a lot of gap, and we've worked and closed a lot of those gaps already before putting her into year 7. Similar to what we're doing with Annabelle, because I'd rather them learn all the concepts and find the work easy and close the gaps than put them in a place where they struggle and resent the maths. Because I'm going back, I don't want her to be repeating concepts she knows. And the thing with ACE maths, it's very repetitive. And some kids need that. Some kids need to practice right throughout the year, all the concepts. Ayla does not. Once she understands a concept, she never forgets it. So you purchase the book itself. Inside the book, it comes with the test. You take the test out, and this is what they do at the end when they've completed the book. Now, to do the test, they have to pass the very last test, which is called the self-test. So they have to pass that before they can do that. If they don't pass that, you need to look at the concept and redo it with them, because they're not ready for that. And if they pass this, and we have a 90% pass rate, they have to get 90%, then they can go and do this. And when you're ordering your books, you also order the answer keys. And the answer keys usually have like 3 books in them. So when I start a new book, any book, I go to the self-test and I photocopy it. And before we begin the new book, she actually does the self-test first. And what that tells me is what she knows and what she doesn't know. So I'm not giving her repetitive work that's just going to make her hate math. So for an example, this self-test, she basically only got the multiple and carry, she got mixed up, and it's just a concept she hadn't quite grasped. Everything else she nailed. She got it absolutely completely right. So everything else in the book she knows, except for this one section. So what we do is each section has a checkup. So for like addition and carry or borrowing and subtracting, Ayla has mastered that concept. She does not need to keep practicing it. So we just went straight to the checkup. She didn't have to do anything else but the checkup, and that was her maths. And she got 100% right. Like, you know, as long as she gets 90, because you do have days where you might get 1 or 2 wrong. And if she does get 1 or 2 wrong, she self-marks this and then she corrects it. If you see, I don't know, I didn't show it before. If you see, they have score this page, correct mistakes, and then they rescore. So you can see how much they're having to redo. And if she was having to redo quite a few, then I'd be like, oh, you have not mastered the concepts. But she didn't. She got 100%. And I just skip all the way to the area she didn't know, which was the multiplication and carry. They just go through and do each checkup throughout the book. So every checkup is done in the book, every self-test is done, and then they sit their test. And that is how I do Maths ACE. that's
And it
it.
works.
And that's how we are doing maths at the moment. Still learning. If you have any ideas of fun math games or drills that I could potentially introduce to the kids, I'd love to hear about them. Let me know in the comments and what you guys do for maths. Always keen to learn about new curriculums and stuff and see if maybe they will be a better fit for us. And if you did find this video helpful, give it a like and maybe share it with a friend. And if you haven't subscribed, I'd love it if you did, because I'll probably do more of these as I go on this homeschooling journey, as well as share some vlogs and adventures that we go on. Sort of a mixed bag, this channel. But anyway, you guys have a great week and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!